As far as the trial itself, it was very unfair. We weren't allowed to use our election expert under any circumstances. You saw what happened to some of the witnesses that were on our side. They were literally crucified by this man who looks like an angel, but he's really a devil. He looks so nice and soft. People say, oh, he seems like such a nice man. No, unless you saw him in action. You could go into every single thing that I ever did. Was he a bad boy here? Was he a bad boy there? By the way, and nothing ever happened. There was no anything. Nothing ever happened. This was a highly qualified lawyer. Now, I'm not allowed to use his name because of the gag order. But, you know, he's a sleazebag. Everybody knows that.
You know, I can't say anything bad about him because of the gag order. That jerk. But anyway, that obviously was Michael Cohen there. So you probably saw yesterday, did you see this? It was a big story. The president was found guilty of all 34 charges, which was significant. The right is saying it was inevitable. It was never going to go another way. I thought it could very well go the other way, but he was found guilty and relatively quickly. It only took about 9 hours of deliberation for them to come to that decision.
Hey, I'm glad you're here. Listen, in order for the Damage Report to keep on going, we need viewers like you to become a member on YouTube. Can you click the join button on YouTube today? Thank you.
And Trump came out, you know, he was a shrunken man and said that he was very innocent. And then that was it yesterday. So then today as a press conference, you know, he has to collect himself and deal with the fact that he's the first ever former president found guilty of not only one felony, but literally dozens of them. And what he delivered, we gave you little snippets right there, was like the exact same thing he's been saying the entire time. And I said every step of the way, the nonsense he's spewing is not a defense against the charges. How could it possibly save him? It didn't. So saying the same things doesn't seem like that's really gonna help you on appeal. He kept saying things like, everybody says there's no crime here. Yeah, well, 12 people said there was a crime, and they are, after all, the most significant ones. He kept talking about Alvin Bragg and the judge and Joe Biden and all that. They weren't on the jury. The jurors that your lawyers helped to choose, and we'll get into that, were on the jury. And so I know that it's mostly about kicking dust up, kicking sand up, trying to obscure things, trying to manage his image, not for the appeal, but among his base. He doesn't want to get replaced at the RNC or whatever, and I don't see how that could possibly happen. We'll get into more of how he's managing this on social media, but Brett, I gave my live reactions to these verdicts right after they came. What do you make of this initially? We're gonna break down different aspects, but what do you think?
I will just say specifically about the part that you played. The way I experienced that press conference was on TikTok this morning, where I would watch it. It was the first thing served up to me, and it was live. And it was him going, Alvin Bragg, no one liked this guy, didn't even like the case. Alvin Bragg's terrible. I'm like, all right, that's it. And then it's someone being like, here's how you repair your front porch. And then I was like, all right, that's cool, next. And it goes back to him. And he's like, still Alvin Bragg's a bad guy. And I would scroll and I get like 3 TikToks and then Trump still going for like 25 minutes. And he would just say the same thing. It was so pathetic. It was the perfect montage of stupidity and sadness and inanity. And you realize that the only thing that makes it feel official is that he's in front of a bunch of stage flags. Because this is the same nonsense that he was spewing in the hallways for weeks and weeks. We just didn't take it as seriously because he was in an echoey hallway flanked by a bunch of neo-proto-Nazi weirdos.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. It was like, you have speechwriters, put together something strong, like actually address the charge. Like there's nothing, there was nothing there. There was nothing in his defense. That's why he lost. And he's still trying to he's trying to pull the wool over eyes. It's done. Like maybe the appeal will work and likely the sentence won't land him in jail. We'll get to the consequences and all that. But look at what he's still posting as if this could have an effect. My bookkeeper called a legal expense on the tiny description line of the capital ledger a legal expense. So is it tiny? Because you're questioning that it's tiny. And what's the difference with the size? That's not the issue. Openly paid to my lawyer at that time, a fully accredited one, blah, blah, blah. It was a legal expense. That is the so-called crime. It's not so-called. A jury found that you had done it, and it is a crime. It's done. We're past that. He might well walk free. He might well be president, but he will always and forever be a felon. Maybe Hochul could pardon him. I don't expect it to happen. So always and forever, he will be. He brings up the reliance on counsel, defense, advice of counsel. They could have put that forward. They didn't. That was not a Bragg thing that stopped him. It wasn't a Marchand thing that stopped him. His legal team decided not to do that. They're the ones that didn't bring forward the witnesses. And again, we will get to that. He talks about how NDAs are standard and commonly used. Not in these circumstances. Something that is legal in one circumstance can be illegal in another. That's actually kind of how a lot of this works. If this can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. And as we've always said, it always could happen to anyone other than you. You were the last one we were trying to find out if it could happen to. No one else is being pursued for this because no one else is doing this. It's just Trump. He is uniquely criminal in that way. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.